If you just watched the news today, you would think the world is going to hell. Maybe it's time to change the channel. I'm Tiffany Shlain. I'm a mother, filmmaker. I founded the Webby Awards. And this series is about how the future doesn't start somewhere far off in the distance. The future starts here. I'm up on all the news, but I don't leave the radio or television on because I have children, and all they seem to show is rape, murder, war. I mean, you know that everything you watch and listen to is influencing the synaptic connections in your brain. So if you're only hearing about the worst of humanity, which most of the news is, you're actually strengthening certain connections in your brain and weakening others. I mean, there's always going to be dark things happening in the world that of course we need to respond to. And there's always going to be news, books, movies, and friends and family that imagine the worst things that can happen. But we could also choose to focus on the good, the potential of humanity, the progress we've made.
Not in a Pollyanna way, but with a good understanding of the past, looking critically at our history and how far we've come. My husband Ken and I like to call ourselves opticists. Optimism with a healthy dose of skepticism. Steven Pinker, in his recent book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, shows mathematically how the rate of violence around the world has actually declined throughout history.
So prehistoric people had about a 50% chance of being killed by another human. And that's obviously not the case today. His theory about why we perceive the world as being so violent is first because the news only reports what does happen and not what doesn't happen. And secondly, that we just care more about each death. That we're more connected and empathetic than ever before. If you just focus on the negative, that can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, when really there are so many positive things we could focus on, the progress we've made, imagining strengthening those neural pathways. Sure, you could focus on the setbacks of the inequalities, but we've also joined together to respond to them. Humanity is moving forward. We're making new tools all the time that are helping us work together and collaborate on these challenges, and we have throughout history. When we were cold and we needed to eat, we invented fire. That was the technology of its day. When we couldn't see far enough, we invented the telescope. When we wanted to speak to people far away, we invented telephones. When we craved more knowledge, we created a computer, an extension of our brains that sits on our desk and now in our hands. And now, wanting to connect and collaborate with minds all over the world, we've created the internet, which is like this extension of our hearts and our minds. Technology has always been an extension of us, an extension of our powers as humans, a way for us to shape the world around us into what we want and need it to be. Our desire to evolve makes me think of this city called Brasilia, built in 1960 in Brazil to be this city of the future. And they built it thinking that no one would want to walk around anymore because everyone would be driving cars. Well, it turns out that people created their own pathways. People wanted to walk, and they saw something built that wasn't working, and their human desire was to create paths. Architects call it the desire path. I love that idea. And I think that the more that society's old structures aren't working, the more we have to think about where we want to be headed and work together to create that pathway. Humans are everything. We're good, we're bad, we're everything in between. But ultimately, I believe that humans are good. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in humanity. Whenever you think about how was someone able to do something big and bold, well, usually that person will say, because someone believed in me. A parent, a teacher, a mentor, just someone believed in them and allowed them to do more than they could. Well, if we want humanity to be better, we have to believe in us. We have to believe that we are good, that we are evolving, and that we can continue to make the world better.
So let's strengthen our collective optimism. No, let's strengthen our collective opticism.
The future starts right here with us. The United Nations and British Airways invited 100 thinkers to board a flight from SFO, fly to London, and try to solve a world problem all night on the plane. So I thought, fantastic, what do I bring on a trip like this? Well, I bring my brain, and then my connection to everything, my cell phone, and I'm feeling kind of like a badass, and I'm just about to board the plane, and I drop my cell phone in the toilet.